everybody, Michelle McClunan here, astrologer and life navigator, and I'm bringing you an update for the full moon, which is coming up on the 6th of April if you live in South Africa, and the 5th of April in some places. So just check online where the full moon is happening for you. In South Africa, it's at around about 6:30 in the morning, and the full moon is happening in the sign of Libra. So what full moons are always is a time to release and let go. It's a culmination point in our lunar cycle. So at the new moon, we plant seeds. 2 weeks later, at the full moon, those seeds come to a point where there's a fruition of some kind. And often at full moon, our issues start to actually be shone on. So in other words, they get lit up or they get illuminated. Anything that's actually under the light of this full moon will actually come into our awareness. So when we look at a full moon, we always look to see what's opposite the moon. And in this case, we've got the sun, which is in Aries. The moon is in Libra, opposite signs on the zodiac wheel. But along with the sun, this full moon, we've actually got the asteroid known as Chiron, as well as Jupiter. So there's quite a sort of a strong emphasis on the Aries part, which is kind of balanced by the full moon in Libra, which is the sign of balance. So what does this dynamic mean? Well, the full moon is in Libra, as I said, which is ruled by the planet Venus, and that is opposite the sun in Aries. So where we look at this little stellium, this little group in Aries, the sun represents the self, the sense of self. When it's right next to Chiron, what this full moon would be illuminating is what we actually feel about ourselves, where our self-worth is, what we see as the true self. And if there are any woundings or insecurities or self-doubts, then this full moon can actually trigger them or shine a light on them. So when the moon is in Libra, being the sign of relationship, this can often come about in our relationships, with very strong relationships with other people, who can shine a light for us onto our wounding, onto our insecurities, onto what we perceive as our flaws, so that they can be healed. Because Chiron is the wounded healer. It's shining a light on the sense of self. So what sense of self is it shining a light on? We then look to Jupiter, which is in that little stellium as well. And Jupiter says, look bigger. Look at the bigger self. Jupiter is the sign of expansion, of higher knowledge, higher learning, the truth of who we really are. So I see this full moon as shining a light on what we perceive our wounds to be, what we perceive our flaws to be, on our insecurities, which are not true, because all insecurities are thoughts from the ego. They're not our true self. So this full moon really shines a light on who are you at your core, without the roles, without the achievements or lack of achievements, without the perceived failures, without the insecurities. What is the awareness beneath that? Who are you beneath all of that, beneath all the noise of our minds? And it gives us a good clue, because the ruler of this full moon is Venus. In this particular time, Venus is actually in a very interesting alignment. Venus is the planet of love, the planet of relationship, and she's in the sign of Taurus, which is actually one of the best signs, if not the best sign, for Venus to actually be in. Venus is about self-value, and being in Taurus, there's a sort of an earthiness, a beautiful feminine energy of true self-love, true self-worth. That's actually what Venus is. It's quite creative. It's a very earthy, grounded, heart-based place for Venus to be. In addition to that, Venus is in a very beautiful alignment with the planet Neptune. And Neptune and Venus together say, look bigger for your sense of being, for who you really are. So I think that this full moon might bring issues, if there are issues in a relationship, and remembering that relationships are mirrors. So whatever is coming up for us in relationship is highlighting whatever is inside us. So if we feel that someone is minimizing us or dismissing us or not respecting us, then there'll generally be a mirror pointing back at us saying, okay, where do I dismiss myself? Where do I minimize myself? Whatever is coming up for you in relationship. The relationship might be with someone who is highlighting fears for you. Maybe the person's not very well. Maybe the person's dealing with something and struggling and you're not sure how to help them. Again, what is it bringing up for you? What is the deepest fear that it's bringing up for you? Is it bringing up anything for you? And if it is, then this is giving us a chance and an opportunity to find healing there by shining our light on it. So when we do self-discovery and self-exploration, we're not looking merely at the little self, the Michelle. Michelle is going to be here and then she's going to leave at some point. We're looking at the eternal self, the infinite self. And what this full moon might do is shine the light on those parts of ourselves that are not true, that are limited to the finite self, to the ego self, and to just notice that so that we can actually find healing by being more loving and being more gentle, which is Venus in that alignment with Neptune. Can we actually be more loving towards ourselves and others? Can we soften our stance? Can we soften our manner towards ourselves and others? Can we be more loving towards ourselves and others? There's a lot of gentle energy as well as a lot of powerful energy. So we've got these 3 planets in Aries, which are kind of want to go forward, want to move forward, want to get things going. There's energy there. We kind of being called on to be courageous, to maybe make moves that feel a little bit scary, a little bit out of our comfort zone. There's a lot of that going on with Pluto moving into Aquarius, as I spoke about before. There's this shift in consciousness where we're actually being kind of called up to the plate to say, okay, what do you really want? What's really important to you? How can you express your value into the world? Those insecurities can come in, which kind of make us want to feel that we just want to be safe and secure and small. But these times are calling on us to move out of that, to move through it, to actually move through our perceived boundaries and edges. So whenever I do a workshop and we're working with art, for example, it's a really good way of seeing that. And it's at a point we often get to an edge. And it's the same in our lives. You get to an edge where you know that you've got to take a deep breath and move through the fear of messing up, the fear of not getting it right. And when you actually take that deep breath and you move through it, very often something else very beautiful emerges that you couldn't have seen, you didn't envisage, you didn't plan it. And these alignments with the Neptune influence, and also we have a beautiful alignment between Mars, the planet of doingness, as well as the nodes of the moon, which are our destiny, and Saturn, which is kind of giving us security, all in water, which is saying, can we be in a place where we're actually flowing with the flow of life? And that kind of means, in some respects, not to know what the outcome is, but to just feel our way. The Venus-Neptune connection is saying, feel your way, intuit your way forward, feel what it feels like, and then allow that process to unfold in its own time. Because very often the ego will have its time and will say, okay, this has got to happen by such and such a date. It hasn't happened. What's happening? There's no guidance. So we are being called upon to slow down a little bit, which will actually start to balance that very fiery energy. There's a lot in Taurus at this full moon as well. And the Taurus energy is very much earthed and grounded, quite practical. It helps us to put sort of routines in place. So if it works for you to start your day with some quiet time, which it does work for everybody to do that, light a candle, spend a few moments just being, or listen to a really good guided meditation, or listen to some music, but just set your day up with a grounding. Spend time outside if you can, because that also grounds the energy. There's a lot of fire, which is fanned by air, which is the Libra moon. So it needs grounding. It needs a container for that energy so that we don't feel that we're spinning out on the outside of the wheel. So again, there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on in our world. There's a lot of fears associated with the unknown. Many people are experiencing financial challenges. There is still this energy of the old systems collapsing. I've spoken about it a lot with Pluto's move into Aquarius. The old systems are not working and haven't worked for a long time. So we're actually in that transition stage where we know that something new has to arise. We're not sure what that looks like because this is a first for us. So it's for us to actually be the change that we want to see in the world. That is Pluto into Aquarius. Can we be the change that we want to see in the world? And in order to do that, we've got to trust that we are bigger than the little self. You're trusting that you are part of something that is much, much bigger, that you are not separate from that because you can't be. And that divine, infinite power that we are all at our core is what is guiding us. The mind, the polarized mind, the wounds, the self-imposed doubts or the inherited doubts or lack of self-esteem, that is not who we are. And this is what we're actually learning. But in order to learn something, it's got to be shown to you. And that is the process of self-discovery and self-exploration. Where something happens, you feel a certain way, very often caused by relationship, whether that's with your partner or whether it's a very precious person in your life or people that you live with. What are these people? What is the situation reflecting in me that I need to heal, that now I need to accept and heal? So it's a process of actually allowing it, seeing it, not being in judgment of it, saying, yes, this is coming up for me. Yes, this is a theme that comes up. Usually it's the same theme, disguised as different things. But it's actually, if you drill down, it'll often be a lack of self-worth, a feeling of not being good enough, a feeling of not being seen, or whatever those things are. Many of us have that because we actually have almost an inborn sense of separation. When we separate from the infinite and we come into this incarnation as finite beings with a mind, with a body, with a soul. So this is a journey back to who we really are, which is back to love, which is this Venus in Taurus is very beautiful and is saying to us, can you actually in each moment just come back, bring yourself back. So see what's coming up for you. If you need to address it with someone, address it with someone. If you need to address it with yourself, which is usually more likely, then address it with yourself. See if we can be more gentle with each other and stop wasting our time in judgment and disdain of ourselves or others. And to see our flaws and our failings as part of this healing process. And it doesn't help to exile those parts of us. The only way that we can do it is to actually integrate them and to accept them, to allow them to be there and to choose in each moment a more loving way. I believe that's going to be the way that we navigate the next 20 years on our planet. We're either going to be in separation from ourselves, numbed down, separate from our true self, separate from other people, polarized people, where we're not actually integrated, or we're stepping into the new world, which is integrated, which is trusting that there's a process, trusting that you're being led into the right situation with the right people at the right time. And that even if you can't see the end result, you trust the process, you show up and you allow it to unfold. Because I do believe, and I've known in my own life, that that is when magic happens, when you're open to that. So I did pull a card for today, and I got the card Queen Esther, which is from this pack, The Divine Feminine, by Megan Watterson. I always use this pack because it sort of just seems very aligned with these updates. And Queen Esther was known as the morning star. And her message is, my ego is in service of my soul, and I trust my soul's divine timing. She represents the powerful combination of feminine intuition and divine timing. She was a Hebrew orphan born with the name Hadassah, raised by her cousin Mordecai. She lived in the Jewish community in exile in Persia during the 5th century BCE. Mordecai became aware of a plot against the Jewish people created by the king's chief minister, Haman. Using her brilliance and her feminine intuition, Esther came up with a plan to save her cousin and her people. Her beauty had caught the attention of the king, so when his current wife Vashti refused to come to him when called, Esther seized the moment, and the king chose her to be his wife. She didn't waste time for the king to call her. She prepared a large banquet and then called for him, which is quite interesting. We prepare the banquet, we prepare the way, we don't wait. Once he was fully in love with her, she revealed that she was a Jew and that Haman had plotted to kill her people. The book of Esther in the Tanakh, or the Hebrew scriptures, is known as the scroll, and it is read twice out loud, once in the morning and in the evening. Her name is derived from the word meaning bright star or morning and evening star. This is the name she grew into when she courageously trusted her intuition and used its divine timing to save herself and her people. So when you get this card, the ego has a timetable that the soul couldn't care less about. When we're feeling stressed or threatened in some way, fear can be exponentially loud and can inform the ego to work overtime in trying to get something accomplished or to manipulate something to happen. That's the old way. The natural flow of energy that's always at work behind the scenes, the universe's capacity to assist us, gets blocked because we shut it down. We block it. When we're in service of love, we are following the dictates of our soul. When the ego is in service of the soul, divine timing ensues. Esther mastered this art. Even under extreme duress, she listened wisely to her soul. She became a queen by letting her love for her people inform her feminine intuitive powers. This is her imperative. Trust that everything is aligning in divine timing. Trust your soul voice. It's a strong message at these times. Trust that everything is aligning in divine timing. Trust your soul voice. And to trust that soul voice, we've got to be quiet enough to hear it. Your soul voice meditation, or the question that we can ask, what do I intuitively know will happen in divine timing for me? It's not a belief, it's a knowing. And then we just align with that. That's the intention. We just flow with that. And then again, the intention, my ego is in service of my soul, and I trust my soul's divine timing. So there we go. I hope that's helped, and that will help you move into the Easter period. Wish you blessings for that, whatever you're celebrating. If you would like to schedule a session, either a coaching session or an astrology session, you can get hold of me via my website. I do have a little bit of a wait. It'll be in May. But give me a shout, send me an email, and we'll set it up. Thank you so much for watching. This month in Inner Space, which is my partner John and my online platform, we're going to be working with the theme enthusiasm, which is basically where we are guided by something bigger than ourselves and aligning with that soul voice. So we'd love you to join us. You can join just for the month if you like, or you can join our community, which meets twice a month on Zoom, and you get a whole lot of interesting projects and activities, creative activities, and beautiful stuff to do during the month, just to keep you on track in these very changeable, very interesting, sometimes challenging times. So remember just to come back to the heart. Come back to love. Soften and gentle. And that's the way we get through this. You're doing great. Lots of love.